I'm delighted to say, joining us to now look ahead to that return leg at London Stadium on Thursday night is Scott Coyne again from the Belgian Football Podcast. Scott, great to have you back with us. Your appearance on the show last week, very well received. And off the back of it, a 1-0 win for West Ham, not quite as sort of comfortable as some fans were perhaps expecting and hoping for. Anderlecht had a chance if it wasn't for our fine save from Alphonse Areola in the second half. Could have been a different story entirely, but West Ham got the win in the end. First of all, what did you make of the game last week?
Well, I think, watching it, I don't think Anderlecht were expecting to win it, to be honest. The performance didn't really deserve much. I think West Ham probably on balance deserved a little bit more than the one goal that they got. Anderlecht never really looked kind of like they were going to get anything out of the game, to be honest with you. And I think the malaise that we spoke about the other week, the troubles going on that the club have at the moment to try and find some consistency are still very much there. I think we could see the evidence of that in their play. There was a real lack of confidence, I think, about a lot of Anderlecht's play in that first game.
Yeah, it was a strange one, wasn't it? I think perhaps I was expecting a little bit more. It's one of those, isn't it? I guess a pragmatic approach was probably sensible, really. Like a 1-0, if you look at it from their point of view, they're probably realistically thinking at the beginning of this group stage competition, their best chance of qualification is in second spot. So to limit the goal difference damage, I guess, albeit at home, I know their fans would have wanted to see perhaps a bit more attacking intent. But, that goal goes in the second half, that chance where the Areola save. They did limit West Ham to, we were a little bit sloppy in the finishing or whatever. But that chance goes in. The pragmatic approach would have been heavily praised, wouldn't it? And getting the point would have been a good thing. But overall, obviously, sort of job done feels from West Ham's point of view, really a little bit sloppy with the finishing side. Benrahma missed that chance, of course. But a nice goal, and it sort of felt like a deserved 3 points in the end. Looking ahead then, I see Anderlecht, you mentioned the sort of trouble that's going on at the club at the moment. They got a 3-1 win away at McKellen on Sunday after that game in the league. It's only bumped them up one spot into 9th. Is that sort of a game they're expected to win, or a big confidence boost, or sort of how's that perceived?
Well, it's definitely a confidence boost. I think the pressure levels are pretty high at Anderlecht at the moment. I think the natives are restless. There's no doubt about that, and have been for kind of quite some time. They're not playing well at the moment and are struggling for any consistency whatsoever domestically. So there is a sense that, Europe in many regards is a bit of a free hit, but I don't think it should be seen that way, because they've been absent for European football for 5 years. So, doing as well as possible in Europe is really important, both financially, but also for the club's profile. The club are really trying to close the gap financially with some of the big competitors in Belgium, and one of the easiest ways to do that in the short to medium term is to be in European football regularly and to win games there. Not just for the coefficient points, obviously, but from the financial point of view, and then that in turn makes it easier to attract the sort of players that the club would like to. Despite the fact, as we know, they've got a very, very good academy. Interestingly, on that particular point, the Anderlecht under 23 sides is currently top of the Challenger Pro League at the moment, which is the division below the top division in Belgium. And that league actually has 4 of the under 23 sides from bigger clubs in Belgium as part of that division. And not only are they top, they're the only undefeated side. So depending on which way you look at it, the fact the under 23 side are actually doing extremely well at the moment is either extra salt in the wound or a very good sign for the future. Maybe a bit of both. I think they come into the
shuffle players across between those teams, or?
Yeah, there's a limit to how many they can use, but yeah, we have seen a little pattern developing where some of the under 23 players have been playing for the under 23s on the Saturday and then featuring for the senior side on the Sunday. And a number of weeks So it is. I know it's a strange one. And there was a remarkable sight a few weeks ago when Julien Duranville played on the Saturday for the under-23s and scored, and then came on for the senior side on the Sunday and scored the winning goal. And that's the first time I've seen anything like that in football. What a week that was for for Julien. But yeah, quite interesting stuff going on with the under-23s. I think this game in London is more interesting actually after the win at the weekend, because there's been a lot of debate in Belgium around the issue of Mazu's preference, which is for 3-5-2. Which I mentioned last time we spoke. He seems to be persevering with that, but interestingly, they go in 1-0 down at half-time at the weekend against Mechelen, and Wesley Hoot, who's been coming in for a lot of criticism in Belgium,
particularly in the Premier League? Or is that a different
he was at Southampton for a while, yeah.
Yeah, that was it, yeah.
Yeah, he's been coming in for a lot of criticism, mainly from Anderlecht fans, but also from the kind of media in Belgium for a number of poor performances. And there's a lot of pressure on Felix Mazu to either drop him completely or at least to rest him. So that's something to watch out for. But they go in 1-0 down at half-time. They make some changes. He pulls Hoot off because he gave away a rather poor penalty, which led to Mechelen's lead. They switch to a back four. And lo and behold, actually have a very good second half, the best performance I've seen from them in a number of weeks for various reasons, when they go to a back four. So that's a couple of things to watch out for. Will Hoot be in the squad? Will he play? And will Anderlecht start with a back four? Because they certainly look much better physically and creatively playing 4-4-2 than they did 3-5-2. So maybe the solution to this problem, which has been hanging over them for feels like a couple of months now, pretty much, may be a simple tweak to the formation. A number of players haven't travelled as well that might influence this a little bit. So Majid Ashimiru's out. He's out with illness. Julien Duranville, who I mentioned, who's been in and around the senior squad, he's been doing really well. He's got a muscle injury, so he hasn't travelled. Neither has Marco Cana, who's ill. But the really big one is Leah Rafailov's missing. He's also a little bit unwell. He's a really good player, as we spoke about the other week as well, and he's going to be missing from this game. So a few changes coming for the lineup from Mazu, but that shouldn't concern the Anderlecht fans too much, because there's been a lot of chopping and changing in rotation in a number of positions as they search for the right recipe.
Yeah. Fair enough. There's a big game. They got a big game against Bruges coming up at Bruges at home. That is on Sunday. Club Bruges flying in the Champions League at the moment, top of their group. The only team other than Bayern Munich to yet to concede a goal in the group stages of the Champions League, which is some feat. The manager, former Stoke and West Brom right back, Herfkins, is it? You'll forgive my pronunciation. Yeah, spent a couple of years at Stoke, couple of years at West Brom, a bit of a cult hero up at the Potteries. So Bruges going to Anderlecht on Sunday. Will that play into their thinking at all and their sort of approach to Thursday's game?
It might do. I mean, that game is always huge in the Belgian footballing calendar for historical reasons, really. You know, the big two, historically speaking, in Belgian football, kind of coming together. I think it's a game that there's more pressure on Anderlecht than there is on Club Bruges, that's for sure. I think the more important game of the probably is the domestic game at the moment, just because of, I think, how the pressure is on Mazu, I think, and they can't really afford to drop any more ground. I mean, they're 6 points off the top four at the moment in the Pro League, and that gap really can't get any more than that, I think. Otherwise, they'd be in real danger, ultimately, of not making a playoff one spot, which would be pretty disastrous for them. So I think if I was Felix Mazu, then, you know, I think I'd probably be prioritising kind of Sunday. That may be why Rafailov hasn't travelled. It's quite a mild illness, I'm led to understand. It's nothing too serious, so he should be back for the weekend. So he's perhaps just mixing that up, recognising that for him that's probably the bigger of the two games. Although it's a dangerous strategy to play that, prioritising kind of one over the other.
Well, that's it. Yeah. So what are you sort of style-wise then? We've obviously mentioned it. West Ham doing really well in the group now. That win on the Thursday puts them in prime position, really. 9 points, maximum points from the 3 games, 5 points ahead of Anderlecht in second, who are just 1 point ahead of Silkeborg behind them. So automatic qualification, by no means signed, sealed and delivered for Anderlecht at the moment. How are they going to approach the game with those 3 left? The Silkeborg FCSB fixtures, they're not, they're still it's still important to approach this West Ham game seriously, because obviously if West Ham do get a result against Anderlecht tomorrow, when they go and play Silkeborg and FCSB after that, qualification already secured, and a win secures group winners position as well for West Ham, which means those last 2 games are effectively dead rubbers. We saw last season in the Europa League when West Ham were in that position, David Moyes virtually played the entire under-23s team for our last group game against Rapid Vienna at home, and we lost 1-0. So, it's important for more than one reason for Anderlecht to approach this game seriously. What do you expect?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll take the game lightly at all. I mean, what's interesting to me is it's a difficult place to go, the London Stadium. I think there are a number of players in that Anderlecht squad that will not have played in front of a crowd that size before, so that will be a first for them. So we don't really know how some of the younger players are going to respond to that. That can go either way. I think it's important for them to try and get something out of this game, to be honest, because there is a feeling that from an Anderlecht perspective, things are very much up in the air in the group now. I think there was an acceptance a while ago that they weren't going to win the group, and looking at how they've been playing over the last couple of months, I think that was only reinforced that they were never going to be able to do that. But if they want to get out of this group, which I think is quite important for reasons I touched on earlier, that they still do, they still have some work to do, obviously, which is why they can't take it lightly. I was saying watch out for the 4-4-2 and whether we see that again. Felix Mazu did say after the win at the weekend, well, I say it was a heavy hint that there's a good chance we might see that again. So I think he's coming round to the view that that seems to, reassure the players, certainly.
Yeah.
So it'll be really interesting to see if he goes with that, I think, in this game, because in a way it's an opportunity for him to kind of try that out. I think he'd be more tempted to stick with his preferred 3-5-2 domestically, but I'd be surprised if he didn't start with a 4, and there's a real chance that we might see Vertonghen coming in. He's recovered from a minor injury. He's travelled with the squad as well, so there is a chance that he might start ahead of Wesley Hu if he's playing a 4 as well.
Nice to give West Ham fans a chance to boo him anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure he's looking forward to some game time and a return to England, because the way these things work. I think he was probably surprised that he was getting a chance to kind of come back and play in England as quickly as he has done as well. So yeah, that'll be very interesting.
Yeah. Fair enough. Well, look, I mean, it's sort of, on one hand, it's good for West Ham fans to think that Anderlecht have got that game at the weekend. Very much an appetite among supporters to get the group wrapped up. We've got some work to do domestically as well in the Premier League, of course. A big game against Southampton coming up at the weekend on Sunday. So it's, that's a huge game for David Moyes as well. There will be a big time desire, I think, to get the game won within hopefully within an hour. Obviously, it just doesn't always go like that, and he was forced to bring on some big players last week to get the win over the line. I've got a feeling he may start slightly stronger this week, with the view to bringing some players off, if possible, to rest them up for that weekend. And then the group's sort of wrapped up then, and those 2 games after that gives him an opportunity to rest some players. But Scott, it's been brilliant having you back on the show again. We appreciate your time this week and last week. Looking ahead to Thursday night's 8:00 kickoff in the game week 4 of the Group B of the Europa Conference League. Scott, give us a score prediction then. Thursday night, London Stadium, West Ham United v Anderlecht.
I think Anderlecht might push West Ham a little bit harder this time, but I can see a 2-1 win for the Hammers, I think.
Excellent, Scott. Yeah, I do like your pro Hammers stance, despite your position on the Belgian Football Podcast. But look, Scott, it's been absolutely brilliant. Belgian football consultant there from the Belgian Football Podcast.